This is 2¼ versus 2½ is bigger, really better.
Check. Hey guys, it's Nate with your Fenton Training Minutes. Today I'm joined with Sean, Mike, and Andy, and we're going to sit down and talk about standpipe operations. This video may look a little bit different from our original Training Minute talks. This one is going to be the first video in a series of videos where we break down standpipe operations. We talk about our new setup, switching to the True ID 2¼ and kind of how we arrived at that, and then we'll build off of that and develop some videos on putting the hose in service, some of the standpipe setups, and as well as extending a line to build like a 300-foot commercial line. So what today is going to focus on is standpipe operations, our 2¼ hose, and how we got to choosing 2¼ and making that switch from our original package.
I mean, essentially in this area, was focused on. We talk about standpipes. You think high rise, you think a lot of the high rises, but even low rise in our big box stores are carrying a lot of these standpipes where we can go in and hit and tag. You got to remember what these buildings are. I mean, they're essentially a type 1, type 2, and even more so a type 3 at times too, with the stand-up, tilt-up construction. They're not good. The building itself is not going to burn. It may fail with heat, but it's not going to burn. So what we're really looking at is to overcome the BTUs inside this from the fire load. Essentially the contents of the building is what's going to be burning in there, and what we're trying to do is overcome this. Our packages before and the packages in the past, even most apartments were carrying these 1¾ hoses for this fire attack, and when we know with our new stuff we're getting 185 gallons per minute, but back then, I mean, you're looking at maybe getting 125 out of some of these, especially with this.
Yep.
And a lot of operations up until, up in the past couple of years, they were rocking fog nozzles on these, which jam up, tilt up, gunk up from stuff that gets shoved in standpipes, and you're really not getting the flow you need out of there. So with the FGSI and NFPA, their recommendations exactly on this fuel load, they look at the big picture of this and the research potent. In these high rise, these large storms, they're going to have fire alarms, they're going to have occupied hours, people awake when something goes off, and even hotels, the alarms are so loud in there, you're going to be awake. We all ran at 3 o'clock in the morning, hotel room, everybody's in the parking lot and it's cold and they're mad because they're outside because somebody's got a dry cooking fire, but that alarm is loud, it wakes them up, it gets them out. So we're looking at room and contents, we're looking at the contents of the fire load, and we're trying to overcome that heat and that fire.
So standpipes by design are low pressure, high volume systems. The target flow that we're looking for from a standpipe is 250 gallons a minute. That's the minimum that is required per NFPA 14. So kind of part of what led us to this decision is NFPA 14 as well as 13E. And NFPA 14 talks about the requirements for the standpipe itself. And we can break that down even a little bit further. So NFPA 14, you can break it down from pre-93 to post-93 and what was required there. There was an event in 1991, many are probably familiar with, One Meridian Plaza in Philadelphia, where that was kind of like what catapulted the change to post-93 standpipe setups and what's required there.
I believe in the NIOSH report that, their biggest thing was the factor among factors was the water flowing capability. They
was the volume issue.
The volume. Yeah. They didn't have adequate lines.
They didn't have the volume.
And essentially what the NFPA rolled out with was trying to get that target flow of 500 gallons per minute or 250 per line and rolling out there. And we're just not capable of doing that with throwing as many lines on the ground, working with a small line. So moving into this larger line, the 2½, it's been around for years, but yet the reason it's been around for years and the reason the 2¼ coming in is because the 2¼ is a fairly new hose yet. What's been past 5-10 years it's really rolled out when you really start to see it.
Probably five.
So, and the differences in it is they're taking a measurement from the inside of the hose and putting it more through a more, I don't know, what do you call it, where quality check, where they're making sure it's actually true size of the 2¼ versus, sometimes you get less over here on this end of it than the other end, and they're making sure the quality of that hose is maintained throughout. And it's just like our sniper, it's an inch 1.88 inside, right? Mm-hmm. So we're getting more flow out of our 1.75 now too, and moving to this 2¼ allows us for a more targeted flow and allows us to get the flow we need with a smaller line than 2.5, more comparable to a small attack line, but yet still getting the flow you need through the package. So
Over the years, the hose stuff, you may think you're getting 2.5 O's. It could be as big as like 2.8 inch and 3/4 was a true 1.75 all the way up almost to 2 inch. So what this is kind of doing is getting the best of both worlds, where you're still getting the right flow, but you're not carrying all the extra water weight. Where you're dropping from 2.5 to 2 1/4, roughly about 40 pounds per 100 feet. So you're getting the maneuverability. It's easier, especially for a department like us. We don't have a bunch of manpower. Like, yes, we're going to call the manpower and get it there, but this is something that you can get on the ground and start working as your manpower is getting there.
Do you want to break down some of the pre-93,
Yeah,
post-93
so
stuff?
pre-93, prior Meridian was 65 PSI at your highest outlet in the building. After they NFPA did NFPA things, now it's post 93 is 100 PSI at your highest outlet. Where that comes in with the Meridian and kind of what our setup was, with the 1 3/4, your friction loss is so high on top of many departments in the area and around the country, we're still putting 100 PSI fog nozzles. So you're only getting enough pressure to barely even operate your nozzle, let alone the friction loss in the hose that's there. 2.5 has been around, it's a great hose. Now the 2 1/4, it has a lower friction loss, the less water weight, but you're still able to go a decent amount away from your standpipe and get your flow.
Yeah, and kind of what we looked at when evaluating the package setup was these documents, NFPA 13E, which is a recommendation on the equipment used for your standpipe setup, as well as Fireground Safety Initiative. FGSI is our countywide SOG that came out that many departments, including Fenton, is working to adopt the practices and the recommendations from that policy. And what FGSI recommends falls in line with these two documents, and that's an 1.1/8 tip, which is roughly 260, 270 gallons a minute flow. And that's kind of what we based our decision off of, was evaluating target flow of a minimum of 250 gallons a minute. And that's what led us down the path of the efficiency with the line itself, and making selections based off that. So one thing on NFPA 13E is specifically, it discourages the use of gated wires, and it discourages the use of small diameter hose. So it's one of the influences in making the transition from our package that we originally had to the 2 1/4 and the newer setup that we're kind of moving in line with. And the 2 1/4 was just a much more efficient package while delivering that same volume of flow, like what we were talking about.
we put the hose on the ground, and you think 2 1/4, 2.5. There's a 1/4 inch difference. It's not. It can't be that much. It is night and day. I mean, we've all had it in our hands. We all floated, and it's wild how little bit of a fraction of an inch changes with the nozzle reaction, as well as the weight and the ability to maneuver a line going through with a very limited loss of string reach and flow. I mean, we're talking at 50 PSI for both the 2.5 and 2 1/4 nozzle. I mean, you're flowing 265, 270 versus 295, 300. I mean, you're losing 20 gallons per minute. Yet 20 gallons is a lot in the grand scheme, but you're able to get more water on fire into that target area quicker when you're able to move a hose line.
Absolutely, and I think that's one of the biggest advantages of the 2 1/4 that gives to us as a suburban fire department with 2 to 4 guys trying to move a hand line. The 2 1/4 feels like an attack line.
Yep.
The 2.5 just doesn't. The 2.5 feels like you're trying to manhandle a tree, through a building. And if anybody's ever tried to carry a couch down a hallway, that's exactly pivot. That's exactly what we're dealing with. Where with the 2 1/4, your nozzleman can handle the reaction that comes, the nozzle reaction that comes with a 250 gallon a minute flow. When you've got a good heel man in place that's helped pushing you forward, this is a true attack nozzle, or a true attack package, where you can actually get the water where you need it. Placement over volume every time, and now we're bringing both to the game.
And that
we're
was
bringing placement and volume.
And that was one of the big factors when we broke down the 2.5 and the 2 1/4 and actually got our hands on it, was which one was just more user friendly. Because the 2 1/4 was a lot more user friendly when it came to maneuvering that line and kind of advancing.
If you got questions of what you want to do, I encourage you, drop that stuff on the ground, flow both of them at the same PSI out of the same truck, and see what you're flowing. I mean, it is crazy. I mean, side by side, we were bouncing back and forth the day they came and demoed it for us, just bouncing back and forth, and it was just every time you kind of just like, oh, this is so much more comfortable and less stress on my body trying to work with this 2 1/4 versus a 2.5. And we were trying to meet that FGSI before changing our protocols, our procedures, and what we were doing, and just making sure we're trying to get down the right path and able to put water on fire when we need to put there.
So one of the things is we had Kehoe's come out and Kevin, and they threw the slide up there, which kind of put out the theory of the difference between 2.5 and a 2 1/4. And one of the things that really stood out to us was the weight difference, and Sean had kind of hit on that a little bit. In 100 foot of hose, just the weight difference between 2.5 and 2 1/4, and really looking at what the 2 1/4 hose was designed for. That 265 flow versus 2.5 is more of a 300 GPM line. So just making sure we were running an efficient package.
I mean, you're rolling your increased mobility. I mean, you're only a half inch larger than your 1 3/4 line. You gain a little bit of weight, but you're still, 30, 40 pounds less than a 2.5 inch.
Yeah.
And I mean, you getting better protection running a 2 1/4 line, and not overworking your crews for that GPMs you're looking for. I mean, you still need 2 people on the line to push stuff or move stuff around, but your secondary guy, your backup guy is not humping over himself, giving himself a heart attack trying to get that nozzleman in position.
And I don't think we can possibly overstate the maneuverability improvement.
Yeah.
You can make turns with 2 1/4. You can make bends with 2.5, but you can make turns with 2 1/4. And it's truly a night and day difference.
Think back to our drill we did in the maintenance shed where we were trying to move around and move that 2.5 in, and you were feeding over here and you were bouncing over here, and essentially you're going to be able to do that with this 2 1/4 way more efficiently and bounce through and get through that drill or that scenario.
Here a thing, like with the water weight drop, and we keep hitting on that, with it being a smaller diameter hose, your grip radius of just being able to hold it. I think anybody in this department with a little bit of technique, can be a flow and move line just like your 1 3/4.
And it doesn't matter if you're going with the clamp, with the Kamala, they all work equally well. It's whatever your body mechanics will allow for with this 2 1/4.
But at the end of the day, with the hose itself, you're gonna be able to keep the nozzle open and flow more water where it needs to be pumped.
Yeah. So that's kind of just an overview of what led us to the decision moving to the 2 1/4. There's a lot of time, a lot of energy spent into making sure that it was an efficient package, it was the right package, as well as kind of moving up to where most of the county is running with the FGSI. We pulled a lot of area departments to see what they were running, their package, their setup, and that's kind of what led us to this 2 1/4. We just want to go around and
this really started on
takeaways.
a win, right? I mean, essentially, this was something we talked about, we briefed about. You and I cornered Kevin sometime and said, "Hey, let's go drop us some hose on the ground," and then Sentinel and Kevin came up, and then about the same times when we started dipping into our SOPs and remodeling them and looking in here, and it's like, oh, we don't really have the right package compared to the rest of the industry, and moving it up to the standards of everything across the board, and it leapfrogged into another, and then it was ordered and on the trucks, and here we are.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, with the intended flow of a single line at 250 from a standpipe operations perspective, this is just the best the best package we could bring forward. It's the lightest, most maneuverable, lowest, nozzle reaction force to get the intended amount of water on target with the least amount of effort from the men and women in the fire department. So it's, from my point of view, solid.
It's like everything we try to do. We try to take that extra 10 minutes of preparation, and extra whatever we need to do to preparation for when we're doing the real work. It makes us less time and less effort pushed forward, so we can get ourselves back. And whether we're setting up ladders to throw ladders off the truck quickly, or setting this up, putting this 2 1/4 and to the folds and everything we hand is really the best thing. And I know this stuff is stiff. This stuff is stiff because it's brand new and the rubber package they use, but it's kind of like that college bed. It only gets softer when you use it. So get this stuff on the ground and roll with it. And it just is, as you move, it becomes more pliable. It's able to bend into the folds. The folds become more of a memory, and it allows that to rock and roll through getting it in our trucks.
Sean, final thoughts?
I think we're in a good spot with it.
Was that my final thought?
Yeah, that was your final
No,
thought.
I don't get to talk again?
No.
Please, no.
You wouldn't let me say tism.
Yeah, I agree. I think we are in a good. One thing I'll highlight real quick: Fire Engineering rolled out their January issue. They had an article on designing high-rise policy for small to mid-rise suburban departments, and the article actually fell really closely in line with everything we're working to accomplish. Give it a read, take a look at it if you have some downtime, because it kind of reiterates a lot about what we're talking about here today and making the switch to the two.
Which in reality, we're not done completely designing our high-rise hotel pack. We do got some fittings and some other gauges and stuff to change inside of our bundle, which is going to make it easier on you to make a lot more sense once it all finally gets rolling out. Of course, we're always dealing with budgetary issues and whether we need to purchase this now or later. We all knew our high-rise packs were going out of date anyway, and it was a perfect time for us to make that change to where we needed to be already. And if you really sit down and think about it, where our targets are and where we're going to use this, not only in our high-rise or our large commercial buildings, we're going to really focus in our hotels, our nursing facilities. I mean, with the Grande, Del Mar, and Friendship, we know where those standpipes are and how many feet of hose line we are to make it to the farthest point we can make it in there. And it goes back to when you were at Two House with us and going out and getting hose on the ground and getting tape to standpipes and seeing where we lay on this. And that's a good way to break in this 2 1/4 hose is, they're not minding, especially if they're low vacancy in these hotels. And
get out, use it, deploy it, because they will let you put hose on the
I
ground.
mean, between our hospital, the hospital's already talked about letting us in, at least not so much putting hose on the ground, but letting us in there to measure. And if you think about the real focus on here, where it's going to be a different tactic and completely in how we roll with it, is Soul Daddy, or even the nut, and how we're going to have to get a line in there. We're not going to be able to lay a line in the front door and get it up to the 3rd floor in Soul Daddy. We're going to have to do something with a coupling drop out of a window and really get that line extension rolling. And this 2 1/4 allows that big line upstairs in there, where you may have room and contents, but we know how that building is built and how that fire load is going to progress into more of a type 5 building versus a type 2, type 3 burn, because of the codes they're able to slide when they built that building. So getting water on fire, a bunch of water on fire quick, is going to really help us to sustain that building, keep it from going bigger than it used to be.
Just to jump in real quick on the training end of things, in the event that everyone doesn't know, we were able to get a PRV, pressure reducing valve. It's stored in the tower. It goes right on the hydrant out front here, or out back at Two House. And we've also got a pitot gauge that's sitting in Chief Mueller's office. You can come in. We can show you how to dial it up at some point here in the near future, and you won't even have to, get a truck out. Anytime you want to get out, flow lines, move hose, do all those kind of things, you can do it right here, right off the hydrant. You get a call, you shut the bail, you go.
I think we preset it the other day too,
It
so
is
it's going to be pretty
preset
close.
to
It's going to be
2
pretty
1/4
close
right
to what you need to be on that 2 1/4, 2 1/2, and what you need to roll. And back into that aspect of it, it's only going to be able to run one line.
Yes, one line, and that's our goal.
One line. I mean, we're looking to eliminate gated Ys completely from the fire service. And
Yes, please.
I look at these two because an exact reason was that class we had 2 years ago, that water class at the lake,
Yeah.
where I literally broke one in the first 5 minutes of being in the class. I snapped the handle off, and I didn't do much to it. But I digress.
So keep an eye out. We'll try to roll some more videos out on some standpipe setup. Build the Denver pack, which is the pack we have on the trucks right now. Hitting standpipes, deployment options off standpipe, and then extending the line. So building that 300-foot for your large commercial with utilizing the 2.5 and 2.25. So yeah, stay tuned. We'll have more videos. Thanks for watching.
If you got any requests, hit them up, send them over.
Send us your requests.
Yeah, we can even, we're looking for a name, and they won't let me name it the one I want to name it, so